Welcome to the Onstage Podcast, where we interview members of the entertainment community, including musicians. Morning, everyone. Well, yes, it is morning here. It's actually 6:56 a.m. But to Logan Kelly here, it's only 11:56 in the morning. So he's in Ireland, and he is 5 hours from us. So, Logan, what are the lottery numbers? Just kidding. You're 5 hours ahead, so I want to know what they are now. I want a new mic. Just kidding. Wait till you talk to this guy, Logan Kelly. Logan Sounds Off. He just turned 12 years old. He's got his own podcast called Logan Sound Off. Well, as of July 2023. He loves music, radio, and reading. He's from Ireland, as we mentioned, or as you say, Ireland. Top of the morning to you.
That's actually something that we never say in Ireland, just to put it out there.
It's a fable. Okay. So we want to hear more about you, Logan. I know you like sharing some album reviews, book reviews, and musician interviews. So you do a mixture of everything.
Yeah, I started off with music, but then when I started with music, I started to fall in love with reading, and that's how books came in. And regarding my interviews, one time there was a man called Keith Walsh, and he commented on a video that my mom put up for me on my social media that we worked on together. And anyways, he commented on this video, and he invited me down to RTE, which is the national would be national television and radio in Ireland, Radio Telefiche Éireann. And I went down there and I interviewed him, and that was the first interview on my podcast and one of my first episodes of my podcast as well. But at that time, it was a YouTube channel. So he fundamentally influenced a lot of aspects regarding my interviews, and he led on to over 30 more interviews that I've done since then in the past 4 years.
That's an amazing story, my friend. We'd like to hear more. Can you go back to the beginning? Um, what made you tell yourself, hey, I want to open a podcast. I want to start a podcast. This is what I'm going to do. And go from there. And where you find yourself today.
So it's actually a bit of a funny story. When I was 4, my dad played for me a song called One Inch Man by Caius. And that's from an album called And the Circus Leaves Town. And Caius are one of the best bands ever and very underrated. So if you haven't heard of Caius, Kyuss, I definitely looked them up. But he played that song for me in the car, and I heard it, and I was 4, and I said, "What is this?" So for about a year, I was starting to be introduced to all different types of music, whether it be rock, punk, reggae, loads of different genres. I started to have a very eclectic mix. So when I was about 5 or 6, my dad brought down this massive box, like really big, filled with his CDs from his childhood. And he brought it down and he sat it in the office. And every day after I went to school, I would flick through that and I would just look at all the different albums and listen to them. They were all CDs, like they weren't actual vinyl. There was about 200 there, but then my dad said, "Do you know what? You're looking through a lot of these, but I want to get you started on a good mix." So he brought in his favorites and he said, "Listen to these and let me know what you think." Obviously, he wasn't expecting me to be the exact same as him, but it started off my love of music. So I started going through all this music and listening to it. So I started growing up with the Doors, AC/DC, that was a big one, Stiff Little Fingers, who are a punk band from Northern Ireland. So all these different bands were surrounding me, and bands that I didn't know. Some musicians that I knew that I would meet today. One of them was Fugazi, and Ian McKay, or Mackay, was actually part of Fugazi and many other bands. So then, when I was 7, I said to my parents, "Look, I've listened to a good lot of the CDs there, and I want to get into the radio. I want to get into radio, and I want to start listening to it." And my parents said, well, look, you don't really get a chance to listen to the radio because you have homework and stuff. The only real time you have it is before bed when you like to read, because I used to read at that time. So my mum and dad found an appropriate music show called the John Creedon Show, which is here in Ireland on RTE Radio 1, Radio Television Éireann Radio 1. That happened every night at 8 to 10 GMT. And I would listen to that. I wouldn't listen to the full of it till 10 p.m., but I would listen to a good half hour, maybe an hour of it when I was 7 and 8. And I really got influenced by a lot of the music there, musically influenced. And then I said to my parents one Christmas, I would like to ask Santa for a microphone. My parents were like, okay, why? Because I want to be a radio presenter. So that's how it all started. I got a microphone and I made this little radio show and I put it onto YouTube, and it got taken down for copyright reasons because I was playing music on it, but it still inspired me. So then I posted a video, as I was telling you earlier, of the John Creedon show, and I put it up on Twitter with my mum because she had told me, because I was underage to use Twitter, obviously. So then a man called Keith Walsh from Radio Television Éireann, RTE Radio, I think 2. He used to be on RTE 2 FM. He reached out to me and he said, look, I'll try. I might not be able to, but I'll try get you into RTE. So I ended up going to RTE when I was just 8, and I went in, and he was doing the Jennifer Zamparelli show, because Jennifer was unfortunately out. I don't know if she was on holidays, but that's not the point. I was waiting to talk to him, and then 12 minutes after he was done the show, he gave me time to go get lunch with him, with some of the main people in 2FM. I ended up getting sidetracked talking to one of the biggest legends in radio here in Ireland, Dave Fanning, and a load of other people. And then I went into the studio with Keith and we did our first interview. And I released it onto YouTube. It's still there. And that was the first interview I ever did. Then I started to go into album reviews. I started reviewing all different types of albums. I think the first one that I did was Dr. Feelgood Singles, the UA years. And if you've never heard of Dr. Feelgood, well, it's not, they are, because it's a band. They are amazing. The Dr. Feelgood is brilliant. So then I started doing book reviews as well, because I started to get a sudden addiction to books. I still love them. As you can see, there's books right there next to me on this side and this side of me. There's books and there's CDs and stuff. So I started doing book reviews. And then I had an interview with Marty Miller, and then just the ball kept rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. And many other things happened. So that's basically how I got into doing a podcast, because originally it was a YouTube channel. Now it's not only a YouTube channel, but I've also got it as a podcast on Spotify and Apple Music, and also Google Podcasts. So it's been a bit of it's been fun. It's been a bit tricky at times, because I obviously didn't know everything about music. I still don't. I'm still exploring things every single day, and I still enjoy that feeling. And yeah, that's just what's been happening.
And when you mentioned book reviews, you were discussing Karen M. McManus' second installment of Bayview 4 Murder Mystery Trilogy, and you did that just a few weeks ago. Do you actually read these books before you review them?
Yes. This
cover
is
to
the
cover?
thing. Cover to cover. That book actually isn't on my shelf at the moment. It's downstairs because I finished reading it. And a lot of the books there, I've finished reading, like most of them. But no, when I'm doing my book reviews, album reviews, anything, I get no help from anybody. Nobody tells me what I should say. Nobody gives me a script. I don't script it myself either. I just go with the flow. Might take 2 or 3 takes, but it's still very, very fun to do. I read every book cover to cover, because not only do I enjoy it, but I want to see it for myself. I never researched the book. Well, now, I would read maybe some other book reviews about it to see what other people think, but I wouldn't kind of plagiarize or copy and paste things into a script and start reading off a page. No. For example, even I have a book here, Watership Down. I'm planning to do this for a review soon. I'm going to read the full of that, and I might read some other book reviews about it, and I might discuss it with my teacher or different people who have read it and my librarian and get a good overview of it. But I never, ever do a book review on a book that I have not read cover to cover.
How many pages is that book, Watership Down?
It's actually not too big now. It's 478 pages.
Oh, that's only half as many as that book, Dahlgren. Try to read that one. I started reading that one when I was around your age, and I had to stop because I was too young. I didn't understand the way it was written. It's like, my vocabulary was very low. It's not like I was a lawyer and I could write like fantastically for like synopsis. So do you think that reviews in the back of the book, does that help its selling point? Like, talks about what the book is about in the back. So you get a book and you turn it around and you read the back and say, "Oh, I like this. I'm going to take it." You think that kind of ruins it?
Now, I'm going to be honest with when I'm doing my reviews. I always read a blurb, or I pick. This is from my local library, so I didn't buy this. I pick up a book that I've heard of, or that has been recommended to me, or that I've seen somewhere before, or that I've had on my wish list for a long time. The blurb, I think, really helps because I am very, very adamant on some things regarding blurbs. For example, here this wouldn't have an age rating, so this wouldn't tell me if it's appropriate for me. Whereas this book, I'm actually gonna it's not gonna say what it is, but it has a warning there saying this is for more mature kind of audiences, so around my age. I like that, but the thing is, they're so unreliable on blurbs, so it's so hard to find a good book regarding the blurb. So that's why if something comes up, I don't read it. I don't usually look at the blurb that much. I I can be very technical about books. I don't like bending the spines. I don't like damaged books. I know this one is a bit damaged, but that's from my school, and that's why I didn't do any of that. But I regarding books, I am very adamant just on being safe around them because if someone's in them, I don't really want to read them that much. So I think blurbs are brilliant, but I'm like just a normal kid who thinks, "Ooh, that looks shiny," and I'll pick it up and I'll read it.
Yeah. Do you think these um, publishers or whatever read a book and they have things like, "Oh, a breathless read," or "full of exciting and unexpected twists"? Do you think that's really real? Like, is it really a breathless? Like, is it really a breathless read? Like, what does that mean?
I'm glad you came up with this question because this is very interesting and I quite like it. For example, here beside me, I have Macbeth by William Shakespeare. And this says, it has like a hook kind of line here. Power and glory lie in Macbeth's future, but what terrible deeds will secure them? A lot of people wouldn't. Again, this is from school, but a lot of people wouldn't. But I would take a pinch of salt whenever I listen to somebody saying, "Oh, it's brilliant, it's amazing." If it's classic, I know that's brilliant because it's classic. But if somebody says, "Oh no, that's really, really great, and it's a breathless read, 5 stars all the time," keep in mind that there's probably a lot of 1 stars out there as well. You need to. I never look at the ratings. I don't really like on movies. I don't really care about the ratings that much because it varies. Some people are brutally honest with their ratings. Other people are like, "Oh, everybody's saying good words about this. I'm going to plaster a massive 5 star over it." No. Regarding ratings, I look at them. If there's a lot of them, I will maybe pick it up. If though, like even here, again, I'm going to use Watership Down as an example. This has winner of the Carnegie Medal and Guardian Children's Fiction Award. That means that it is good if it's gotten awards. I mean, that means that it is probably a great novel to read. So regarding awards, I will always pick a book up if it has a ton of rewards, but not if it's plastered all over the place, because then you know they're trying to get you. If it's on the back, just kind of swift, I'll pick it up and I'll know this is going to be a nice, relaxing read.
My friend, his daughter is an editor, and she gets all these manuscripts on her desk and she reads them. And if she can't get through the first sentence or the first paragraph, she'll put it down and say, nope. And if it's riveting, as it's just riveting, like to say in movies, then she'll read the whole thing and say, okay, possible. Okay, we'll publish this one. So I don't know if the author of Watership Down took it to the editor and get it published for a book that's over 400 pages. Why is it 400 pages? Why didn't the editor say, okay, we should cut it down? Like, when you read it, I like to hear what your review of it is, because it's my friend's favorite one.
Actually, this is very interesting. Regarding reading a riveting book, look, I'm going to use another example. Tale of Two Cities. You open that up. The first thing you see when you open up on the first chapter on book, the first says it was the best times, it was the worst times. Then you know it's going to be a good read. I think it is incredibly unfair to judge a book by the first paragraph or sentence, because that is just, I don't want to offend anybody if they do it, but no, I disagree with this. I'm not going to say, oh no, you should completely change your idea. That's what you would like to do. I mean, that it's your idea. I wouldn't do that, because a lot of books that I've started, I've went, this is awful. But then I've continued it. And when I'm at the height of the story, I'm going, this is one of the best pieces of literature ever made. So a book needs time. Regarding a book size, a book is a book is a book is a book. Look at the Bible. That's thousands of pages long, and it's one of the most sold books in the world, along with Anne Frank's diary. Regarding War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy, that is over 1,000 pages long, yet that's a classic story. Another book by Tolstoy, Anna, I actually forget the second name in it, but no, that's nearly 1,000 pages again. That's a massive classic. I do not judge a book on its size. Personally, the reason why I don't like small books is because they can be very quick to the point. The sweet spot for me is 600 to 800 pages. That's where I am happy. Obviously, I'll read a book like this because it's perfect. But I don't judge a book by its pages. I don't judge a book by its first page or anything like that. I just read the story and then I'll judge it.
I do the same thing with movies. I give it 30 minutes, and if it doesn't rivet me in 30 minutes, then I turn it off. But somehow, there are movies where I watch 30 minutes, I say, well, this is interesting. Who's this girl? She's cute. I like to find out what kind of character she, and then suddenly within that 34 minutes, I'm like, oh my goodness, is this a good movie? And I watch, but otherwise, if it doesn't rivet me in 30 minutes, I turn it off. So I can literally watch 3 movies in an hour, if you know what I mean. So I kind of like to review movies. But when it comes to books, I mean, have you ever had a issue when you do a review of a book, the publisher, the author, or someone comes by and says, what do you mean you hate the book? Or what do you mean? You ever had any flack for your reviews?
I actually love this question, because I'm proud to say I have never gotten a complaint about my book reviews or album reviews that I've seen ever. Ever. Never a publishing house has said anything. Never the author has said anything. Never the editor has said anything. Nobody has ever really said anything who's related to making the book. I have had some complaints where people are going like, oh, that's a bad review. Or some people like will have a joke saying, oh God, you're a bit harsh on that, Logan, and like smiley faces and stuff. You know, they're trying to be good natured. And people have a laugh then. No, but I think I'm a bit biased, because every book that I read, and I know I'm very kind to a lot of authors by doing this. I'm so nice. But I will never publish a book review if it's under 3 stars or less, because I feel like I'm being mean then. Like, that's just, I want to highlight the good books. Honestly, like, I'm a 12-year-old kid. I've got nothing to be worried about, stressed about, hating. I mean, I've got at least 2 or 3 more years till I become an emo. So I've just got to nourish that. I'm only joking. But I've got to kind of nourish that feeling. And I don't, I know I've been very harsh with some Logan's 5 stuff that I do, where I've rated some songs 0 stars, and that's a bit different because sometimes the songs are actually awful. But regarding books, I never pick up a book that I know I'm going to hate. I never want to do that ever. Um, and I also never want to make somebody feel bad about something that they've put maybe 10 years into. With the song, it's different because it might not have taken too long. And also, the person who made it might have gone themselves, yeah, I didn't like that song myself on the album. A lot of artists say themselves, for example, Dave Gilmour said himself, I don't like Atom Heart Mother. I don't like that much, that album. And I think if I said to him, oh God, that's not that great of an album, he'd say, yeah, you're right, I didn't like it either. And we'd actually agree on something. Whereas with books, if somebody's made like a 2,000 page book and they've been working on it for 20 years and it's pure research, and you just come over, slam it down on the table and go, yeah, we're not publishing your book. Or somebody slams it down, a reviewer or an editor, or somebody for a magazine, and they slam it down and go, yeah, this is awful muck. I would never read this or recommend it. 0 stars. That's just awful. Why would you do that to a person? That's trying to be malicious. So instead, I try to kind of support authors in every way I can, and fellow podcasters and musicians.
So you have an opinion for not just books, but um, presidential addresses and things your parents say or whatever. Do you literally say, I don't like what you said? Or you go, I like it. Are you like a yes man, like a yes person? Yes, okay, I'll do it. Sure, I'll run out in the middle of the street, no problem.
I do sometimes have opinions that aren't about books or albums, but like every person does, um, I know I can argue to some people, not on my podcast, obviously, but with like maybe a friend in school, I might go, "Oh no, I don't think that's right." But no, I do have those beliefs, but I never really talk about any opinions on my podcast. If there's something that I want to say, I think about it because I don't want to harm anybody. I don't want to be mean to anybody. So I will never broadcast an opinion that I might have that could be considered controversial. I don't have any because I'm 12. But if I did, I wouldn't want to do that because I don't like arguments, to be honest. I hate arguing. I hate problems. I just like being happy.
Yeah, you're much like me. I don't like to cause problems. Talking about books again. Hey, have you ever read the book The Art of War by Sun Tzu?
No, actually, I have
Read
never
that
read
one and
that.
review it. You'll love the book. And you think it's riveting? That's a pretty breathless book too. Like it's an amazing
That's
book. You should read that one.
I will.
Yeah.
I actually will. I'll order it into the library, or if I see it in a bookstore, I'll buy it, and then
Yes.
I'll read it, and I'll mention you. If I
Thank
do
you.
ever find it, I probably will. But I'll
Hey,
look
that
my.
Chris from On Stage podcast said that I should buy this book. Oh yeah, who's he? Oh, here's his YouTube channel.
I'll
Little
do a little
advertisement.
plug in.
Yeah. That's funny. And there's another one too, Ulysses. Like
Ooh.
when I was younger, it's sort of like I was reading a lot of books, not too many books, but a lot of books, and I wouldn't review them, but I would read them. And obviously, the Bible is one I read constantly. Um, but people say, "Have you ever read War and Peace?" I said, "No, I haven't." Even today, I haven't read War and Peace yet. But people mention, okay, you should read War and Peace. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should because everyone wants me to read War and Peace. You mentioned War and Peace. Have you read it?
Now, there are a couple of books, sorry, two books that you mentioned there, Ulysses and War and Peace. I'm going to start off with War and Peace because that's what you asked me, and then I'm going to input a little opinion I have in Ulysses. War and Peace, I've never read it. The only reason why I know about War and Peace is because even though I have an interest in books, I found out about it from the Peanuts movie, when Charlie Brown goes out to
Wow.
read War and Peace. And then I saw it, and people started talking about it, and I saw it everywhere. That's how I know about War and Peace. Now, regarding Ulysses, that's a different kettle of fish altogether. I've known about Ulysses my whole life. I've been exposed to it my whole life on the radio. There was a guy called Sean Rocks here in Ireland who he has a show called Arena, and he must treat Ulysses as he must treat James Joyce as a prophet because he always mentions the book. He has specials on it, I have nothing against James Joyce. I think he's a brilliant writer. I tried Ulysses, and I've never tried War and Peace. It's something that I've always wanted to read, and I've always wanted to read Ulysses. I tried it. It wasn't really going anywhere, and I said there are so many books out there that I need to read to do reviews on.
Mhm.
This is nearly 1,000-page book that's all about a day in the life. I think I'll leave it for a little while. So even though I've mentioned on my social media that I started reading Ulysses, in fact, I never finished Ulysses. There it is. I'm cancelled now. I've actually never finished it. Never.
I think you should read The Art of War by Sun Tzu first, because and after you read Ulysses and War and Peace, you'll be looking back at Sun Tzu's Art of War and going, wow, that was a better book. It is a good book. It's a book
Yeah,
you can read on the
yeah.
subway, you can read in the car. It's a great book. And let me know when you review them, because I'm very, very interested in knowing what you say about them.
I definitely will, because this is like, to be honest, I love these kind of conversations. I love talking to teachers about books. I love talking to people about books. Even yesterday, I have a load of classics there, and I went down to my parents and my granddad. I started talking about them, and we just started discussing how we all read them, or we didn't read them, or we've heard of them, and different things. And it was just, it's really lovely to have those conversations. And when I get a recommendation, I try to write it down. So obviously, after this, if I don't remember the name, I will listen back and I will write it down, and I will either order it into my library or a bookshop, or I'll buy it and I'll read it. I might not read it for a couple of months because we've got a massive backlog here of books to read, but I will read it, and I will let you know when I do the book review on it.
Since you like to read books, you ever thought of writing a book?
Oh, now this is the thing. I actually have wrote a good massive chunk of a book so far. I have started writing a book. I posted on my social media for people to access it, to read it, tell me what did they think of the first draft. It's still not finished. It's called Finn. The name might change. I don't know. I'm working on it at the moment, and I'm not going to say anything about it. If you guys, anybody who knows me or is following me on social media, and you've read it, then you'll know what I'm talking about. But no, I'm not finished it. The story isn't in concrete yet. But yes, I have tried writing a book before, and I do love it.
So, when you have this non existent book that isn't ready yet, but when you publish it, and someone came along and was a reviewer on a podcast and started to read your book and review your book, and there were negative reviews, what would that feeling be like?
Actually, there's two things that I'm going to say here. One is that I don't even know if I'm going to get it published, and I might not. I've never actually stated that I will. I've never stated that I won't though, but I might. And second of all, if somebody said that they didn't like it, I would personally send them a video and I would say, that's okay. You're allowed to have your own opinion. I worked hard on it. I know there's a load of people out there who love it, and I know that there's other people there who will be inspired by it if I do get it published. But if you don't like it, that's fine. Just take it as a way that it's a loss for you. You haven't been inspired. So I wouldn't be too mad at anybody if they said anything negative, because again, I'm a 12-year-old. I'm not going to be a genius when it comes to writing things. It'll only be a bit of fun, and if people don't like it, that's fine. I know there's a lot of hate going around about different books at the moment, and have gone on about books. Even if a book is popular, you're always going to get negative comments. But no, I really wouldn't care that much if somebody said anything to me. I know that sounds a bit weird, but no, I just kind of get on with it. I mean, there's no point in feeling upset about it.
Are you sure you're only 12 years old? Because you got the mind and the character and personality of a 50-year-old. It's like, wow,
Well,
incredible.
actually, I would say a similar thing to my dad. I say, "Are you sure you're?" I'm not going to say his age. I'd say, "Because you seem as mature as me," and we'd always have fun like that. Um, not in an offensive way to dad, obviously, but in a nice way. And then, no, would be a bit more mature than the normal 12-year-old. That can be a bit annoying sometimes to try and talk to peers. But no, yeah, I'd say regarding all that, I just take things in my stride. I'm a lot more chilled out about things that other people would get really annoyed about. I just don't like being angry.
I understand that. Is this something you want to do in your life? Do you want to be a full-time podcaster? You want to be a book reviewer? Do you want to be a music reviewer? What do you want to do when you're 25?
When people ask me what do you want to do, I say I'll be a radio presenter. I want to be a radio presenter, and if
Radio
that doesn't
presenter.
work, maybe a podcaster as well. Oh no, you were right about saying podcaster. Then people say, what if that doesn't work? Author. What about that? Musician. I've already made an album. It's gotten a huge response. I made some money from it. I've already wrote part of a book. I'm enjoying it. I might finish it in the next year, 2 years, 3 years. Maybe it'll never finish ever. But no, I love creating. I find it hard, and I drift off things like that. I will never stay on the one thing. For example, here there's tons of albums. I've listened to, I don't know, maybe 10 of them, and I've listened to maybe, let's see, one. Yes, one in its entirety. So I just skip through things. I don't skim, but like I go back and forth with things. For example, at the moment, I was in the middle of this and I just stopped reading it. I might read it at some time. There's some books up there that I just went through half of it and then just went, oh, I'll read the rest another time. Maybe there's some that I read 10 pages of and I said, I'll restart that some other time. So I'm always changing my ideas on things. I know some days I feel really happy and then in a second, whoomp, I'm a bit chilled out and just neutral about everything. I'm always changing. My personality is always changing and morphing. It's never staying in the same place, which is kind of cool, I think.
So when you read a book and it's a second one in a trilogy, or third one, do you actually get, if you like the first one, you'll read the second one, but if you don't like the first book, would you just not bother reading the second or third? Like for instance, Ransom Riggs' second novel. I suppose you liked the first one, that you would read the second one.
Actually, if I'm being honest, personally, I don't mind Ransom Riggs. I mean, he's cool. His stories are creepy as. He's just very creepy in what he writes. His stories are very weird, eerie stuff. It just. But no, quality wise, he's a brilliant author. There's a book up there, a series up there called The Inheritance Cycle. And The Inheritance Cycle is 4 books. Aragon, I thought, yeah, that's pretty good. Eldest, oh, that's amazing. Brissinger, oh, it's all right. Inheritance, and the last book I went, that is one of the best things ever. So,
Yeah.
I will always, if I've read the first book, if I've read the first one, I will read the second one. If I've read the first one, if there's a series that I've read, I will. It doesn't matter if it's in the years or in a year, I will come back to that book. I will always come back to the series.
So you do read a book more than once, though, right?
I never read books more than once.
Okay.
There's a couple on that wall that I have. Skullduggery Pleasant, Book 1. Harry Potter, Book 1. The Recruit by Robert Muchamore. I've read Bleach by Taishi Kubo a couple of times. Komi Can't Communicate by Tomohito Oda a couple of times. One Punch Man I've read a couple of times. All the Tokyo Ghouls a couple of times. Gordon's Game a couple of times. And then I'd say maybe The Accidental Adventures of Onion O'Brien maybe a couple of times as well. So that's only a couple of the books on my shelf. The reason why I read them is because they're easy, just bubble gum for the brain. That's how I describe them. But like a book like A Tale of Two Cities, I'm gonna read that now, and unless I have to do that at school, I might not ever read that again because it's so difficult. It's so difficult. I read out 20 pages of this and I had to stop because it was so tricky. I'm going to read this in the next couple of months. I have a couple of other books there that I'm going to read in the next couple of months. Well, no, just regarding books, I'll read anything that's easy a couple of times, but I won't read anything like a 1,000 page book a couple of times because
Yeah, I know Charles
there's so
Dickens
many
is
new
quite
books.
a prolific writer.
Yeah, I even though I haven't read that many classics, I love them. I have a load of classics here on my shelf. I'll quickly go through them. Um, and they're all very interesting. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Oh
Um,
wow.
so that's Robert Louis Stevenson. So that would be pretty good. Macbeth, as I showed you earlier. The Wonderful
Shakespeare.
Wizard of Oz,
Wow.
legendary. Call of the Wild, Jack London. He also wrote White Fang. And there's a beautiful
Wow.
animated movie of that as well. And
Amazing.
Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen, and A Tale of Two Cities. And also Persuasion by Jane Austen is something that I might read soon as well. And all of them I got from school. Like I didn't buy them, which is brilliant. And I'll be able to enjoy them. And then in the future, if in school in Ireland we don't have we would have secondary school, which is quite like high school here. It's very different, the Irish education system. We only have really primary school, um, which is 8 years long, starting from when you're five. Secondary school, which is 6 years long. There's 1 year that's optional, so 5 to 6 years long. Along with that, 14 years, and then also you've got college as well. So we would have a bit of a different educational system. But no, all of these books I can get from my school. I can read them, and if I go into secondary school, and somebody asks me about them, then I can talk about them, and I'll have a good idea if I have to study them, which I think is great. But that's not why I'm reading them. I'm reading them for enjoyment, and honestly, FOMO. I don't know what's in these, and I'm really curious. So I'm gonna get into them, and then I'll start shouting about my opinion on my podcast.
You can't really review autobiographical books because it's simply just an artist or musician, whoever, writing about their life experiences and what it was like growing up and why they chose the instrument or why they chose being an author or whatever. You really can't review those because it's just
Well,
they're like real, like you can't say, well, I don't like the way what, how would you review an autobiographical book? Like for instance,
you
um the Bono
can't.
book. I think he wrote a autobiographical book. Bono?
Yeah, surrender.
Hmm.
You can, because I actually have. The thing is, by Dave Fanning, I reviewed that, and I got the chance to meet Dave Fanning. Dave
Nice.
Fanning, if you're watching, we should meet up sometime.
Hi Dave.
But no, hello. But no, the thing is with autobiographies is you can review them, but not personally. You can review them quality wise. For example, the thing is, I'm not able to say, Dave, I didn't like the way you went to UCD. Well, I went there, so Dave, I didn't like the way you did that on your radio show. Well, I did it. I'm just saying what I did. It's my autobiography. But I can go, Dave, I didn't like the way you wrote it because you didn't give a unique perspective. Obviously, that's not true. I loved this thing. It was perfect, 5 stars all day long. But no, I could say, Dave, the grammar there or the way you mentioned it, it wasn't really in a flow. It might be all over the place. That the end of his life might be at the start, and the start of his life might be at the end. So you can review it quality wise, but you cannot review it for personally, because then you're being pedantic and you're out to be malicious.
What do your parents say when like you're 12 years old and yet you're reviewing books, you're reading books, you're a podcaster, and you're not even 13 years old? Like, what do they say? To say, oh, I'm very, very proud of my boy, or they're like, oh wow, Logan's a podcaster, cool. He reads books too. Did you know that?
Well, they usually say we think he's been here before. My parents aren't the type of people who would go, "You're very strange, Logan, the way you have your own podcast and that you read so much. You're very weird." No, they would go, and this is really nice about them. They'd go, "Okay, oh, I love that. I'd like to talk about that. Oh, you should listen to this." They would always be like that instead of kind of putting me down, because a lot of people underestimate my power. And a lot of people underestimate
Oh,
me. Oh, this is a 12-year-old. He's going to know nothing. By the end of the interview, they're going, gee. shouldn't have been thinking that because I do know stuff that not a 12-year-old really knows, like about like music. I have a fair amount of musical knowledge that other people wouldn't have that are my age, and some people even older than me, like teenagers. I can have a conversation with a teenager or an adult, no problem. But I find it hard to communicate sometimes with people my age because I have a different interest. And I just think about things that a normal 12-year-old doesn't think about. Not in the weird way.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like I have to listen to all the music and the artists and the musicians that a 16 or 17-year-old will be listening to, just in case someone asks me a question. What's that song? So what? Oh, you mean Pink? How did you know that? So I mean, you got to be ready. You don't want to be kind of like unknowledgeable when an 18-year-old, 19-year-old says, "Hey, did you go to Taylor Swift concert?" Taylor who? I'm a Swiftie person. But people will say, "Oh, you're pretty old, so you must be, you might like you're a big Tom Jones and a Dean Martin fan probably, and you probably have Sammy Davis Jr.'s albums at home, you
Oh, they're
know."
they're all brilliant musicians, though. In
Yeah,
fairness,
they're brilliant musicians, but I also listen to, Britney Spears and Imagine Dragons. I've met a guy about your age who knew music that only a 12-year-old in 1900 would know. Like, I mean, never underestimate the age. Like, you're pretty brilliant yourself. And that word brilliant is used differently here in Canada than it is where you are. Um, I'm talking about intelligence, like intelligence level. If you were 1 to 10, you'd be 15. I mean, incredible. I've never met anybody like you, and I'm so happy to
actually,
have you. But
we sorry, sorry, you were saying there. Sorry.
yeah, I was just going to ask you, like, I know your parents encourage you to keep going, but is there ever a time when your parents are going, "Oh, I'm like jealous because I wish when I was your age, Logan, I wish I had done this, kind of
Well,
thing?"
no, my dad, like, by the way, just to put it out there, we use brilliant as in either oh that's brilliant or brilliant as in you're very smart. So we use it both ways, which can be very weird sometimes. Don't fall over CDs, but no. Um, my parents sometimes go, Logan. When I was a 12-year-old, I was doing blah 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 blah, and I was going. Well, first of all, I'm a bit different, and they'd know that. Like they wouldn't be going, "Oh, but you're the exact same as us." They'd be kind of going, "Why? Why do you do this kind of stuff?" And I'd be saying, "Well, just." Da, 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 da. And they'd be going, well, that kind of makes sense. We have a different kind of opinion on things, but that's what I think makes my podcast so interesting. And that's what I think I find is most interesting about having a conversation with my parents is that we all have our own different kind of we all did different things at different ages. So I'm at an age where I'm doing a lot of things that a lot of people don't do. For example, I am awful at sports. My mom once said, oh, I didn't enjoy ball sports that much as a kid. And I said, oh, well, I bet you I don't enjoy any sports because I'm not into sports in the same way. But I'd love music and books, and I'd love, um, kind of, even at lunchtime, I love to have conversations with people. But most people are just thinking about what they're going to do when they go outside and stuff, which is fine. But it's a bit weird when you have those different interests.
Are you concerned that your intelligence level when you're talking to your parents? I don't know if you have any other siblings, but talking to your parents and you're just like in your mind thinking, my dad's not as intelligent as I am. My mom is talking about things which are way beyond me. Or you sort of you'll talk to anybody, no matter how old, even your grandfather, 100-year-old, and be able to manage a conversation with them.
Now, this is the thing. First of all, my mom and dad are way smarter than me. I never
Good
ever
answer.
I no 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 I never ever think of myself as smarter than anybody because
Cool.
most of the time
Humble.
if they're older than me they're not, because if somebody had no education and I had tons of education and I was 7 and they were maybe 20, they would probably be smarter than me, not as in smart as in um smart as in they're very kind of they know how to add sums, they know how to read. They'd be clever though. They have experience. So I can manage a conversation with anybody. I don't want to put somebody down. The one thing that drives me nuts is if somebody tries to put me down because I'm a kid. My parents don't ever do that. My family doesn't ever do that. Sometimes if I have somebody on the podcast, they'll think, just a 12-year-old, but they wouldn't put me down because I'd explain to them, look, this is what I'm really like. And then I get into a conversation with them. So no, I will have a conversation with anybody as long as they want to have a conversation with me. It takes two to tango.
Yeah, I'm supposed to be able to relate to kids your age, but I'm also supposed to be able to relate to a 95-year-old. I want to recommend you a book called How to Speak to Practically Anybody About Practically Anything. It's by Barbara Walters. She just passed, I think, at 93, 94 years old. And she was a well-known interviewer. And basically, when I read that book, I was able to talk to my friend Dwayne's father because he's the sort of guy, I don't know if you ever met people like this, where they say, I won't talk to anybody because they're not within my level. But when I used the book outline in the conversation, I was worried, okay, what is Dwayne going to think? And Dwayne said, you will not believe it, but my father said he had one of the best conversations he ever had with someone. And I'm like, oh, so you should read that one. How to have a conversation with practically anybody about practically anything. Barbara Walters, remember that one. And Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Okay, I'll write those down after this because honestly, I do enjoy those kind of things. And my granddad as well, he loves those kind of things as well. He loves philosophy and psychology. My granddad, he always says to me, I love to know how the brain works. He doesn't say, oh, I love philosophy, I love the meaning of life. He's not very pretentious about it. He's very simple about it. He goes, I just like to know how people think. There's a nice sense of simplicity to that, which I quite like, and I find it's very interesting.
Have you ever had conversation with people where they just say, I don't know what Logan's talking about, I'm leaving, or I'm out of here? Like, you ever had that where it said, I don't want to talk to this guy. He thinks he knows so much.
There are some people who say to me, speak English. This is one of
Are you
my.
drinking
No, it's
tea
not
when they
even
say
funny.
dream
Like,
crumpets? Well,
Chris, it's not funny. Because I hate it when people go to me, speak English. I am speaking English. You just don't understand the word. If I say something like, I know you're a very kind person, you wouldn't say speak English to me or stop using such big words. Like
you're
big
the best.
words. You would ask, oh, what does that mean? Oh, what's that about? Most people, though, or, well, some people would go to me and say, oh, speak English or stop using big words. And I just, that's a bit sad, like, because, I mean, they're trying to put you down. It's sad for you. It's also just kind of, it's a sad conversation. It's not alive. It's just a dead conversation of somebody going, oh, I don't know what that means, so I'm just gonna make fun of it. So that is one thing that like has happened to me before. Yes.
Well, I hope, Logan, that people don't like bully you and make fun of you and call you names because there would be no reason for them to do that.
Oh no. I don't have any problems like that. Just some people. It's not that they say it like intentionally, but it is malicious. They're not trying to be, but it is kind of annoying when somebody says it. Now they'd be nice, but they'd be going, speak English, come on. And I'd be saying, look, this is what it means, and they'd say, what? And then I'd be explaining it again. I know I'm called the Human Dictionary in school, which is one of my favorite names ever, and I embrace the term nerd because I am a nerd. Like if you look at my wall, I have like a superhero poster on my wardrobe. I have the periodic table of elements on my wall. I have tickets put on my wall. I have a Ramones frame right above the laptop, a guitar over the Ramones thing. I have an album cover here, David Bowie there, Nirvana, Fontaines DC, Leinster Rugby, who I have never watched a full match of. Never. Rodrigo e Gabriela, who's a band. I have an Irish cap down there. Typical Irish cap down there. A couple of hats, a guitar thing, and on air sign. This is Nerd Valley.
I love it.
And I mean, I don't really care if somebody calls me a nerd because I go, yes, I am. I love sci-fi. I love fantasy. I am your typical nerd.
I
I
love
mean,
it.
I
I
watch
love the room. I
Star
love
Trek
everything.
and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Some people just go, "Oh, you're so nerdy." I know, isn't it great?
I
That's how
know.
I think about it.
I'm reading like A Christmas Story by Charles Dickens every Christmas time. With Scrooge, and
A Christmas
remember
Carol, yeah.
at the very end, especially the one with
Oh,
Alistair Sim, which is
wait,
my
wait, wait,
favorite.
wait, wait. I've actually never read it, and I've never watched the full thing. I'm so sorry, but I do know like that
Have you seen the
Scrooge
movie?
turns nice. I know actually. I've seen the
Okay.
bits of it. I know that Scrooge turns nice
If
by
you're
the
gonna
end.
watch a Scrooge movie, then you gotta watch the Alistair Sim version, which was made in 1951. It's black and white. Don't watch the stupid colorized version. It's terrible. I don't know why they bothered even colorizing any black and white movie, because silver screen, it's it's sort of like perfect. If I were to review a movie right now, uh, it would be that one, and the reason why that they colorized it. But otherwise, it's a perfect movie. But I'm saying, when you watch the very end of that movie, Christmas movie, there, um, the little boy. I'm just going to tell you one thing. The little boy in there
Yeah.
reminds me so much of you.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, it's incredible, and not very many people your age, especially 12 years old, or Kylie, 17, my co-host, or others that I've spoken to, entrepreneurs that have their own business, and they're not even 21 yet. And when I was like 12, you don't even want to know what I was doing when I was 12. But we're
No,
talking
you're
about
right.
way
I
back.
don't really want to know. I'm
No, like
only kidding. I'm only
I
kidding.
wasn't reading books. I wasn't listening to music. Um, oops, sorry. Hold on.
I mean, what's wrong with that if you weren't reading books or music? That's because you didn't really mind it that much. By the way, earlier I was only joking saying about I don't want to hear about it. No, I totally understand what you're saying. You just look. Everybody will get into something in their life. I just happened to get into something really early in my life, so I'm a bit ahead of the game. But other people might get into them when they're a teenager or an adult. Some people get it when they're elderly, when they have time to really get into things. And that's when it starts for them. I just have a head start. And I've just put in the work to chase it. And that's why I'm here.
I can listen to you all day. Wow, amazing. So so happy that we were able to get you on the podcast. I'm just so happy about that. So yeah, before we go on to music, okay, I'll have to go back there soon. Okay, so with music now, I know you said you kind of review music albums and artists and musicians, but really, if there's bad music out there, would you say it's bad music, or would you kind of hold your tongue? Because I heard some really bad music, and I'm like, I'm sorry if you like that group, but I just don't like Def Leppard. I don't.
I have to kind of go whenever somebody asks me this because it depends. Logan's five wise, when I'm rating my five songs every day, I'm doing one today on Saturday. Um, that's Saturday, the 28th of October. But I'm going to be doing my Logan's 5. I know it probably won't be released today, but I'm doing one today, just using it as an example. If there's a song that I really hate, it's 0 stars. I will put it out there. Now, sometimes I'll go, okay, that's a bit harsh. But if it's a 1 minute introduction of a helicopter going over a field, I might rate it 0 stars because there's no effort put into it. Whereas if there's an album that I rate 0 stars, I don't even try recording it. I don't even listen to the full album because I don't want to upset anybody, any of the musicians. Because some musicians, as I've said before, will just go, "Yeah, that one isn't too good," or they'll go, "Oh, that's a bit annoying. He didn't like my song." Where if I go, "I don't like your album," or "I don't like your band," that's like that's my life's work, or that's a year's work, or 2 years, or 3 years, or 4 years, or 5 years, or maybe even a decade. Some people work on things. If I just put them down immediately, that is so mean to do to a person that I just don't do it. Whereas if I say a song, that's a bit different. So that's where I kind of draw the line.
Okay, if you're listening to an album, artist, a musician, or a band, and suddenly you finally get a hold of their autobiography of the band, and you read all about their exploits with drugs, with what they did when they were younger, and all this thing before they became musicians, would that change your attitude towards their album, or would you still like their music,
First
knowing
of
that
all,
the
oh,
lead
sorry.
singer was a drunkard or took drugs? Would you still listen to their music?
Um, well, like it's publicly known. There's a couple of musicians who everybody knows took drugs, which is unfortunate. I'm totally anti-drugs. I think they're terrible. And there's a couple of people like Ozzy Osbourne. Fortunately, he took drugs. Ed Sheeran, he did. I'm not searching up this kind of stuff. It comes up sometimes, just when I hear it. There's a couple of other musicians who might have taken drugs in their time. And yes, that is quite bad. But I'm not going to change my opinion on the person. I love Ed Sheeran. That came out wrong. I like his music. I like Ozzy Osbourne's music. I love Black Sabbath. He is an amazing musician. But just because they did or didn't, or they were drunk, were alcoholics, or they took drugs, I'm not going to change my opinion because everybody makes mistakes. But no, just there are a couple of musicians who, when I hear they took drugs, I might go, "Oh, come on," or they drank a lot. I go, "Ah, come on, I know you would have done better." But I think it's more. I focus on the current musician. For example, Ed Sheeran, he's clean now. I'm going to use that term. He doesn't do anything like that. He is just very kind of chilled out now and a bit anti it as well. Same with Ozzy Osbourne. So I would look at them and go, do you know what? I'm happy that they fought against that and are now helping others in need of getting through that. And I think that's really lovely. So that's what I focus on.
Yeah, I'm not really into Black Sabbath or Ozzy Osbourne. I know he's got a really good song out there, but
I'm
did I
sorry.
say something wrong?
Yeah.
The song "Dreamer" by Ozzy Osbourne is quite a really beautiful song. But now when I see him the way he is now, and his health is failing, and he's like hunched over, like 100-year-old, and with a cane, and learning about Sharon Osbourne, and she had lung cancer, you really can't. I mean, I may not like their music, but they really can't put them down because they've been through a lot and they can no longer perform. But however, you got someone like Mick Jagger who's still parading and dancing on the stage at 80 years old. I mean, that's kind of cool because not a lot of 80-year-olds can just keep dancing since, Um, but
Actually, just hold that thought for a sec. I want to show you something really quick. You were saying regarding the Rolling Stones, and I was thinking, sorry, I'm just trying to get this into place here. This is their new album, actually. I
oh
managed to grab
yeah.
it on vinyl, and yeah, he's still kicking. And
Oh, Transparent. Wow.
yeah, and that'll be out of print pretty soon. So I was happy that I was able to grab that. But no, I have to say, like regarding Ozzy Osbourne and stuff, Sorry, actually, I'm gonna let you continue before I say anything else.
Yeah, I'm just talking about how we're talking about Ozzy Osbourne and his health is declining, but I'm also thinking that we lost some really good musicians like Jeff Beck, and we have a Canadian singer called Gordon Lightfoot. I don't know if Gordon Lightfoot is
Oh
known.
yeah, Gordon Lightfoot, beautiful, beautiful singer.
I
He
interviewed
passed away
his
recently.
daughter, so you
No
should check
way.
it out. Yeah, I interviewed his daughter, so I got a chance to get to know her, and I told her I didn't want to speak about her father too much because I know that she likes to be a person who wants to do their own stuff. They don't want to be known as someone in my father's shadow sort of thing, you know. But yeah, you should check her out, Meredith Moon. She's one of the episodes in my podcast, but she's really she's great too. Sorry, now go ahead with what you were going to say.
Sorry, regarding with Ozzy Osbourne, I mean, he even I think did a video saying, yeah, I did take drugs. He was being interviewed and he was like, I mean, I'm kind of paying the price for it now. You can see his health is failing, which is really unfortunate. There's people who it's awful what some things have happened to. People like the singer of Big Country, Kurt Cobain, everybody like that. It's just like, I mean, I'm not going to dwell on it too much. But just know, I think it's good that people recognize it and that the musicians themselves go, yeah, I'm going to change my lifestyle now.
Yeah, when you get a chance, also check out our interview with Trevor Hurst from our Canadian band Econoline Crush. Check them out. And he specifically said that when they started to sign a contract for music, he was into drinking and then he turned to drugs. But look at him now. He's got this look at me now story. Amazing. And I said, you want me to post this? And he was like, yeah, sure, post it. So I posted it. And for someone to hide all that, um, it eventually comes out. But if you know ahead of time what this musician or artist was involved in, then you can't really say, but Trevor Hurst was a druggie and he was a drinker and alcoholic. Yeah, I know all about it. You don't want to hide these kind of things. I think it's interesting. Logan, so when you find your guests, how, like, where do you go? Like, how did you find Ian McKay? How did you get him on your podcast? Um, what's the first thing you do when you want to get a guest?
I am not going to give you a full answer because I have a technique and I'm sorry, but I will give you a couple of kind of clues. First of all, I find kind of a way to contact them. I get some of their contact info. No, I'm just kidding. I get like, I find their email online or something. And I send them my info and some other things. I'm not going to mention what. And they'll come back maybe and say, I'd love to do it. Or they won't come back at all. I have never once had somebody who said, no, I'm not going to do it. Nope, you're just a stupid 12-year-old. Bye. Boop.
Yeah, exactly.
I've always had somebody, if somebody wants to do it, they'll say, oh, yeah, you're brilliant. Thank you. And then other people will go, because you know what, they're busy, but so they might get back to you, and sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. But then you got other people who just ignore you, which is kind of fine. The worst they can do is say no. And to be honest, if like, for example, I'm gonna take somebody random. Look, Kevin Morby. Never heard anything by him. Just have a CD here that I got from Gilded ALM. They sent me a bunch of CDs and vinyl. I did a video on that. Plugins. But if I message Kevin Morby saying, hey, could you join me? And I sent him something, then he would say like, oh yeah, I'll join you. But if he turned around and said no, I'd say to myself, okay, he doesn't really want to join me, that's fine. If he comes back and says, no, you're just a stupid 12-year-old, then I go, joke's on you, I'm not putting any more of my money towards your music. I'm not going to listen to your music because I know you're very offensive.
Good job.
And if you think that I'm a stupid 12-year-old, you didn't watch any of my podcasts. So that just shows that if anybody ever contacts you, you don't put in the work, which kind of is bad for you, not for me.
Sometimes, like, I did one on Messenger, and 2 weeks later, my favorite actor responds and says, oh, sort of along lines of, oh, you sent me a message. Now you have to be fined by my manager because you and I spoke. I shouldn't be talking to you unless you talk to my manager. So now you have to pay a fine. And I'm like, well, then I don't want to ever even watch your movies. I don't want anything to do with you if you're going to put that attitude on, Fine me?
Like,
fine me?
Fine.
Who do you think you are, the King of England?
No, I just say, look, if that's how it's going to be, I wouldn't even just focus on anybody like that because, like, I mean, fine, you have tons of money, but if you're making other people feel sad, I mean, if somebody purposely, like, somebody famous came up to me and was like, "Oh, you're nothing," well, then I went, if that's how you have a perspective on people, I don't know how you got this far because you're so mean and ignorant and offensive to people. So, I mean, I wouldn't be too offensive, but I'll point out the obvious, and I think you'd agree.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So okay, so you have a guest, and like me, I'm not going to give their names. That you're sitting there, and oh, and you shut up 10 minutes before the interview. So I know you're going to go far because some are either a minute late, and others are like half an hour early. Some are like an hour early. And said, no, no, our interview's at 9, not 8, and stuff like that. Um, and then they're, oh, okay, well, we can't really do it then. So let's plan another time. And they're really interested. And others are like, I message them. I like watching movies. So, I like that actress. I like that actor. And then you go and you message them, and within a week they're on your podcast. And I'm like, it doesn't happen like that all the time.
But
Um,
it sometimes
so you're
does when you get the look of the draw.
so you're sitting there and you're waiting for them to show up. And then let's say you have an interview at 8 with a well-known musician. Then it's 8:01, 8:05, 8:10. Do you send them a confirmation message? Say, listen, we had a podcast at 8 o'clock. It's 8:10. So where are you? And then you don't hear from them. What do you do when your guest ghosts you?
There was one ghosting, and it was actually a whole misunderstanding, and the person was really kind. I'm not going to mention their name, and they know who they are, and they're happy that I'm going to praise them so much because they were so nice. Um, I was doing something, I just did my thing. I logged on and waited for half an hour, just standing there looking at my beautiful face, and he never came. And a message half an hour later, he said, "I am so sorry. I was busy doing something. Can we reschedule because I'd really appreciate that." And I thought that was lovely, and I was really appreciative of that. And I said, "No bother." And we did it later that day, and he was a pleasure to interview. So if you know who you are, thank you so much for joining me, and hopefully we'll cross paths again.
Yeah, well, one of my team, I say, well, such and such today, but they ghosted me, and I'm really angry, and I want to block them. And he goes, maybe something happened to them. Maybe they're in a hospital. Just leave it and just contact them later. So I listened to the guy, and then a month later, whatever, I said, you know what? I'm just going to message the guy. I said, why did you ghost me? Whatever. But I said it nicely. And he said, oh, I was in the hospital. I was ill. This and that. I'm like, wow. And I'm thinking, oh, my friend was right. So now, if you ghost me, you ghost me. And you have to reach out if you want another chance. We just suddenly, I send them the schedule when I'm available for podcast. 2 months, 3 months goes by, and I'm like, hello, it's October, and I sent you July schedule. But I say it nicely because I don't want it to get back to me where, don't go on Chris's podcast because he's very rude. I want to be able to be gracious and say, oh, this is great. You know, you showing up 10 minutes early, I'm not going to say, Logan, our podcast was at 12 noon, not quarter two. What do you think? Like, what would you think of me? You say, you know, um,
I just say I'm so sorry. I
but
wouldn't say
so,
anything about it. Don't worry.
so do you watch other podcasts to kind of refine your questioning? Like how to say your question better? Like instead of saying, people, like even my sister says, you always keep saying, can you give me a backstory? So I'm thinking I would say something unique, like, so can you go back to the beginning and tell us what brought you here or something like that? Make it a little bit more better. How would you do it?
So actually, I'm looking at something here now where I've got my podcast out because I want to tell you about a couple that I listen to and that I love and that are brilliant. The first one
Rich
is
Roll.
called sorry.
Rich Roll? Joe
No,
Rogan? No?
the first one. Oh, I wouldn't be. I'm a bit young for Joe Rogan. But no, the first person that I listen to is Dissect, and Dissect is a Spotify original. You're welcome, Spotify. I'm plugging you in now, but it's a Spotify original, and it's a guy called Cole Kushner, and he talks about all these different albums. I'm gonna go through a couple here because he's so cool. I think he's amazing. At the moment, he's doing "In Rainbows" by Radiohead, an amazing album. He also was doing Denzel Curry, MF Doom, some stuff like that. But he always rates albums. So, for example, he did Tyler the Creator and stuff. His first album that he did a dissection on was Kendrick Lamar. I'm not going to say the title, but he says here I'm just going to read the about because this is the one that I want to highlight and plug in. Yes, Spotify. Um, it says analyzing the music and meaning of one album per season. Um, Join host Cole Kushner as he dives deep into albums by Kendrick Lamar, Kanye West, Mac Miller, Beyonce, Frank Ocean, and recently just Radiohead. So I listened to that and many more. And he has a partner on him on an episode called Mailbag, and he discusses people like Mac DeMarco, who's one of the most coolest lo-fi indie trip hoppy artists ever. I'm down with all those people, you know. But no, it's really, really cool. Some other podcasts that I would listen to is Recorded History, which is with a guy called Ed Smith, who I actually interviewed. He's brilliant, and I love the podcast. I also listen to The Ringerverse, which is basically a nerd kind of podcast. Again, another Spotify original. This is promotion now. I'm sorry. Also, another Spotify exclusive is the Louis Theroux podcast, and he talks with some artists as well. I listen to the Arena podcast, which is based off of the show. It's just all the episodes there. I also listen to Drama on One, which is a show on RT Radio 1 along with Arena. And also I listen to a bit of Callan's Kicks, which is a podcast from RTE, which is politics, which is very funny. And also Gift Grub, which for anybody who's in Ireland who listens to Today FM, you'll know what I'm talking about. But Gift Grub is kind of like little 4-minute skits, and they're very funny sometimes. But no, they're just a couple of the podcasts that I listen to that need to be highlighted, that are hilarious. Like even the Ringerverse, at the corner it says approved by the Comics Code, and just stuff like that. It's so funny, some podcasts, and so many are so serious. Like Dissect, Cole Kushner has this hello and welcome back to Dissect. That's his kind of voice. It's so kind of monotone and very straightforward. He doesn't like perk up hello and welcome. He is very simplistic, and I don't mind that at all. And I want to highlight this one a lot as well. Scottish Watches. Scottish Watches is a podcast literally all about watches, and I interviewed the main man, Ricky DeMann, and he is incredible. He has plugged me in a couple of times as well. Very kind person, very amazing podcast, very funny co-host Dave. I was about to say sidekick there. Dave, if you're watching, you're very cool. So Dave and Ricky talk about all these different watches for people who are like me and my dad, who are actual nerds and love just listening to people talk about different watches. But no, it's amazing, and I just want to give a big plug in to them because they are an incredible band of warriors merging through the murky waters of podcasting.
That is amazing. I like how you put that, walking through the murky waters of podcasting. I love it. Well, here's some music podcasts before I mention the other podcasts. My co-host Kylie, her podcast is Talk of Fame podcast. Check that one out. And then there's one called Vox and Guest, Christina. She interviews independent artists, indie artists. And then there's Annette, who has one called the Music Junkies podcast. It's pretty good. Another one is Dan Spencer, the Best Music Podcast with Dan Spencer. And he actually went to university for this. So he knows about the psychology and the philosophy of music, and some of his questions. I'm just riveted. Wow, so he would be like a match for you, I'll tell you. Then there's one called "Song Is Born" podcast. It's a band that they write music and they play it on their podcast and they interview. Now I'm going to give you the bigger podcasts. I'm not saying that these aren't big. I'm talking about the big ones with millions and millions of subscribers. Rick Beato.
Oh, Rick
Have you?
Beato, I love him. He is brilliant.
Yes, definitely. Rick Beato. Um, Rich Roll. You ever heard of him? The Rich Roll podcast. Check him out.
Okay.
He's really good. Another one you should look at is Lex Fridman. He's good. Another one with Joe Rogan's good. I like the way he conducts himself. And I don't know if you're familiar with Jordan Peterson. He's like a psychologist. Well, his daughter, Michaela Peterson. Check out her podcast, Michaela Peterson. So I always kind of I like the way they ask that question. Well, I asked the same question, but I'll ask it that way. So I'm refining my whole thing. And um, but but I know that, so your interest in music made you more knowledgeable in music. But you ever had anybody on your podcast, the music you've never listened to before, and after the podcast you were so intrigued that you wanted to listen to the music?
Yes, Ian McKay, definitely.
Uh-huh.
His music is brilliant. I hope in the next little while to order some stuff off his label, Discord Records, because he does some incredible pricings, and he's just, as a person, he's amazing. Um, so yes, Thomas Walsh. Before I loved him, but still I love his music. Just incredible musician, incredible, totally underrated. A lot of people don't know of him, but in Ireland he'd be popular enough. But Thomas Walsh, if you haven't heard of him before, I listened to him. His band's Pugwash. Then you've also got the Duckworth Lewis method, and then you've also got his own just solo career, which is just oh god, it's coming out of my head now. Just Thomas Walsh. And he also worked on the Duckworth Lewis method with a man called Neil Hannon, who has a band called Divine Comedy. And this is a CD by them, which is Office Politics, which is very, very funny. Like, even the lyrics in it says, Office Politics, official report into what caused it and the lessons that can be learned. And for the band members, it said, like, central protagonists, external conspirators, section 1, subsection A, and then it has the song titles. Even it's presented beautifully here. It's got this nice little sleeve on the inside, and then you've got your album, which is just beautiful. 16 songs, over an hour long. One of the best musicians ever. You can actually, if I hold it up here, be able to, God, you can see him there.
Yeah.
He's right there. That's Neil.
Wow.
And he is just phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
Yeah,
Phenomenal.
that's how good he is. He's more than phenomenal. He is a lot more than that.
So Logan, who's your dream guest? I mean, Ian McKay probably, but who's your next dream guest that you'd love to have on?
John Creedon. I would love to have Ed Sheeran on the podcast. Paul Weller, Mick Jagger.
Oh, Weller! Wow.
Yeah, Brian
Wow.
Johnson.
Really,
Neil
Brian
Hannon.
Johnson from AC/DC.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I love AC/DC. If I was to bring anybody back who's unfortunately passed on, probably. Oh, I forget his name. No, he's from Pink Floyd. He died though. He was from
Yeah,
the
I know.
original Pink
A
Floyd,
couple of
not
members, I
the
think,
one, because no, actually. So the original Pink Floyd was all of them, except Dave Gilmour wasn't in it. Dave Gilmour joined in because Pink Floyd people only know it for which is really annoying. They only know it for Another Brick in the Wall. But Pink Floyd actually started off with a book called I'm thinking of books now. An album called The Piper at the Gates of Dawn. And I think it was, how many albums did Sid work on? He worked on 1, 2, Yeah, only one. And then Dave started to come in because Sid, I forget his second name, I'll get it for you now, went off his head. Like, he started taking these psychedelic drugs, but he was such a flamboyant, amazing person. He was actually incredible. Like, if you haven't heard him, he's amazing. Sid Barrett, that's it. I thought it was Sid Barrett, but I didn't want to say it in case it was wrong. Sid Barrett, I would love to meet him. David Bowie, he went far too soon. Alan Rickman. Um, the thing was, David Bowie, his last album was his best album. So I'm actually going to get up the info now so I can fully inform the viewers of what his last album was. His last official album that he recorded was called Black Star. It had 7 songs. It's very weird. Some people may go far to say it was bad. If you think it's bad, it is bad. Like, quality wise, it's terrible. But personally, I love it because of the sounds that he used. But like, it's pretty good to those who are into music that who would be non-mainstream music. Like, this, not for time all the time. It was released in 2016, and he died on, I think, what was it, the 15th of January or something, or sorry, the 14th maybe. I'm not sure, but this was released on the 8th of January. This album.
Well, I know that George Michael died December 2016, and David Bowie died in February of 2016. So we recently
February.
lost some good musicians as well. But you showing me albums that you got from other artists, but don't you ever, like, I usually sometimes I get CDs that they send me autographed, because there's nothing better than autographed CD, just
I'm
like an
actually
autographed
going to
book.
show you something very interesting again with an interview of mine. 1 second.
Meantime.
So, Mary Coughlan is one of the loveliest singers ever. She has a beautiful voice, and I got the chance to interview her, and that opened me up to listen to her music. This was her latest album, Life Stories. Mary, if you're listening, I'd love to hear more music from you. You're incredible. And I got this personally from her, which was very nice. I never got the chance to buy it. I also have an album of hers, which I'll show you in a sec, but this one was signed by her. She gave it to me when she signed my album, so I'm going to show you the album now as
Nice.
well. I'm pulling everything out for you, Chris. My room's
I
going to be a
know,
tip.
and also a 12-year-old with vinyl albums. Wow, that's amazing.
I
So
found
who's
this
that?
at Mary Coughlan again.
Mary Coughlan, and
So I
autographed as
found
well.
this, I think it was. Sorry, here's back. I found this at a record thing, and somebody said, "Oh yeah, I never listened to it actually." So it's pretty clean, like very good condition when I got it. And my dad was like coming out. He obviously has an awful taste in music if he never listened to it, which I thought was funny. See, me and my dad would always have a laugh at that kind of stuff. Sorry, I hit the mic. It's just because it's so old. There's a bit of parts where you're trying to shove it in, but I don't try to damage it. Sometimes, just like even look, you can see it's a bit awkward. But no, she is a lovely singer. She is, I believe she's still doing stuff to this day. I don't think she's finished up just yet. You should definitely check out my interview with her. But this is what it says in the back. This will give you an idea. Until October 1983, Mary Coughlan sang in the bathtub only. Along came Dutch composer and musician Eric Visser and pulled the plug. She tossed out the ducks, steam pressed her glad rags, and off they sped to enter a talent competition in the Salt Hill night spot with the song Eric had composed for her. Luck would have it, she lost. Several television appearances immediately followed, and now Mary's moody and sensuous voice can be heard on the wireless throughout the country. This is the best debut album she has ever done. So now, and that was signed off. Did you get the joke at the end of it? This
No,
is
I
the
didn't
best
actually.
debut. This is the best debut album she's ever
Oh,
done.
that's awesome.
It's very good though, and I just love this. I'm so sorry. The muffler on this keeps hitting off the
Yeah, it's
records,
okay.
but it's my fault, not the mufflers. Um,
That's no
but
problem.
no, brilliant artist.
Yeah, I actually, my friend Julie just released an album some years ago called Situational Quandary, and she's trying to get the single out that she wrote for her son, and we're gonna have her on the podcast. And I know a few other musicians I've had on my podcast that I know personally, and some I had no idea were so wonderful. You just have to send them a message, and they're like, "Yeah, I'd love to." Others are like, "Nope, we have to decline. We got so much on our plate." Then you ask them a year later, "Oh no, we have to decline. We have so much on our plate." I'm like, "Okay, so you know what? A year from now, I'm gonna ask you again." And then I just stop asking. And I figured that if one day they say, "Hey, we're available now," I go, "Sure, no problem." I'm not gonna say, "Nope, nope. First time you did one? Nope, no." I'm not gonna be like a little boy about that, you know.
Yeah,
But I
I'm
love my
playing
guests.
hard to get.
Yeah, I'm almost at 150 episodes. I love it, and I got so many episodes still to upload, and I got a world famous, what else? Like an award-winning actress on in about a few weeks, and I'm so
No,
happy that
no need to brag, Chris.
okay,
Jeez.
brilliant, brilliant. I use the Irish word brilliant, but around Canada, if you were like to spill soup, if you were to spill soup on a CEO, the word brilliant would be it would be like stupid. It'd be like, okay, that was a stupid thing to do, not a brilliant thing to do. Um, this is great. So yeah, I would love to have Sting on my podcast. Um, Dan Reynolds from Imagine Dragons. I love to get Britney Spears, which will be difficult. Britney Spears, and you imagine me getting Taylor Swift on my podcast? Say hi, I'm the manager of
Woo,
Taylor Swift. We love that.
Swifties!
That'd be awesome. Are you kidding? I'd be
Yeah.
like, man, like even with Sting, you know,
Hello,
his
Taylor.
Sting's
I'd
real
be a
name is
total
Gordon
fanboy.
Sumners, but do you call him Sting or do you call him Gord? Or do you call him Mr. Sumners? I mean, like Slash, for
Yeah.
instance. If you get Slash on your podcast, what do you call him? Slash, or do you call him by his name? Or Brian Warner,
Well,
Marilyn Manson. Would you call him
can I
Brian or
give
would you
you
call
a
him
tip?
Marilyn?
I'm gonna give you a pro
Yeah,
tip here.
sure.
If you ever, and I mean ever, have somebody say to you kind of, they start saying like, "Oh, I like you to," and you start off. Let's say I sing right here on the podcast. Hello and welcome to Logan Sounds Off. Hello, Sting. Imagine if you didn't want to be called Sting. Hello, Logan.
Well,
I
then,
always ask the person before, always before, do you want to be called Sting or do you want to be called
good
this?
man.
I
Yes.
always ask them. Because even with Ian McKen, Ian Mackay, the name, he's called different names all the time on different interviews, which is really annoying. So I called him McKay and that worked, Mackay, and that worked out fine. But some people call him McKay, so I still don't know which is the right one.
Do you like it when people make fun of your accent? Not like I mean, like I love the Irish and the
No.
English accent, and I do a really good British accent. Like I did um, a voice act, and the the person was British, so I had to do the British kind of Scottish accent. And my friend, who's a pure with a really thick accent, said that was one of the best accents, better than mine. And I was like, oh, okay. That's why at the beginning when I said top of the morning to you, and I said, I'm just putting it out there. We don't say that sort of thing. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, this is
I
the
was,
thing. There are Irish stereotypes out there. There are people that believe Irish people say top of the morning to each other. We never do. We never do. Not even if we're trying to have fun together. If we're trying to be like, oh, people are always going top of the morning, that would be the only time we'd ever say it. As an example, we would never say it in a conversation like top of the morning to you. Never. People think Irish people drink beer a lot and that we're always in pubs and that there's pubs on every corner of the street and it's pubs. That's not true either. Yes, we do drink, but everybody does. Like, I mean, um, that's in every country. There's bars everywhere, but well, not everywhere. You know what I mean? But no, people think that if you ever come to Ireland, go to the Epic Museum. That will tell you that we're not a country filled with stereotypical paddy capped things. Like, I'll show you for example. 1 second. Again, I'm sorry. This hat here. People in Ireland will wear this. They will. Like they will. It's awful. Sorry
Yeah.
about that headphones.
Oh, there you go. There's a typical Irish gent that I'm.
People will wear it. I mean, people do. But if you start like they don't do it in a stereotypical way. They just wear it because they wear it. And that is it's nice. Like but no. As well where people like say about leprechauns and stuff. Yeah, we have our folklore, which is Irish for like tales and kind of things. That would be it. So that would be kind of tales Oscailga. But no, regarding our folklore, yes, we do have leprechauns. And when some people do come over and they're like, "Oh, do you know leprechauns?" Some people go, "Oh no, we this is what it's kind of like. We're not big into our things and stuff. We're not all St. Paddy's Day all the time." But there's some people then who will go, "Oh yeah, we have tons of leprechauns," and stuff like that. Who will just do it for fun. But no, Irish people, there's a lot of stereotypes. Most of the time, we don't really mind. There's some people who will be strict on it, but like even I know most people, if they say to me like, "On top of the morning," well, funny story. It's
I
only
know
for
I
the
had a
fun.
boss who was. I had a boss who was a really, really thick Irish accent, and he was on the phone. I was listening to him, and I was like, "I like that thick Irish accent." As soon as he hung Logan, this is as soon as he hung up the phone, he asked me a question in a really thick Irish accent. I responded without realizing. I responded in an Irish accent, and I went, "Oh my god, he might think I'm." I did not. It's like most people when if they like if I stayed in Britain or Ireland or Scotland for a year, I'd probably pick up the accent. You should check out my PMAT episode. He's from Ireland or
Wait, who?
stereotype.
Sorry, did you say
PMAT,
CMAT or PMAT?
PMAT.
Sorry.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
from Ireland, and check him out. I've been wanting to ask you. So, Irishmen, is it true that they're just drinkers? That's what I asked them. Are they drinkers? Irish drinks, you know? But they do have a lot of pubs there. And my favorite movie is Leap Year, so I know about Irish people.
I mean,
You
yeah,
should see that
just
movie Leap Year. It's really good. Amy Adams,
no,
really
I've
good
actually
movie.
never seen it.
Yeah.
Never.
But you have some really good cliffs, really good scenery. That my friend Armando went to Ireland.
Yes, so this is very interesting. Have you ever been to Achill Island, or do you know about Achill Island?
I haven't been there.
There's a place called Achill Island, and it's one of the most it's just one of the most beautiful places ever. So, anyways, Achill Island has the highest sea cliffs in Europe. There, they are so big, and like trust me, because I've been on them, and we drive around them all the time and stuff. So it's very interesting. Um, But no, just regarding Ireland, there are so many beautiful places. There are so many lovely places in Ireland. And I'm
Yeah,
not just saying that because I'm Irish, but
mm,
it's actually just a beautiful place.
my dad was born in Curacao in the Netherlands. I like to go to Curacao. I've been to
Oh, I love
Holland. They always have this, but Scottish have this really thick, like a David Tennant from Doctor Who, really thick British, Scottish accent. I love it. Um, but I've listened to Oasis, and I know that Liam Gallagher and Noel Gallagher, but
Ooh.
they don't sing in Irish. So like, I don't understand. What is your take on that? What is your take on Scottish and Irish and British people not singing in the accent? They sound like American. What
Now,
is your
a
take on that?
couple of things I want to mention this. Scottish, English, and Irish people, even though they're all Gaelic, they are totally different nations. So that's really cool because we're all unique and it's lovely the way it comes across. I know you know that, but I'm just saying that it's quite cool that way. So I love the music that comes out of kind of where I live, along with Wales as well. With their accents, I don't know why. Singing, it's just a bit different. And here's an interesting fact. This is very interesting. In Ireland, it's actually not Gallagher. Oscailga, Gallagher, it's actually Gallagher because the GH is a her sound. It's very interesting. So now some English people will say, and if they're got Gallagher, their last name, they'll say Gallagher because that's what they've grown up with, and that's because they have a totally different language and everything. So that would be Gallagher then. But if you're from Ireland, there's a good chance that you're actually Gallagher. Like for example, my mother, Emer, she's now Emer Kelly, but before that she was Emer Gallagher. So whenever somebody, so that's very interesting, I think. So I just wanted to let you know, because it's very interesting, isn't it? How the name can change over nations that are so close. So I thought you'd find that kind of cool.
Would I be corrected if I said Gallagher? Would they say, no, it's Gallagher? And if I started saying, Mr. and Mrs. Gallagher, Mr. and Mrs. Gallagher, would they say Gallagher? It's Gallagher. But how would you know?
Now, this is the thing. If somebody's English, it's going to be maybe Gallagher. It depends. Some people prefer Gallagher because that's what they grow up with and they prefer that. But I'd say like I know my mom would always say, like, if somebody mixes up her name or something, they'd say, yeah, well, she put her name into a word to kind of link something into it. So, but no, so a lot of Irish people would be Gallagher, like the Gallagher Rugby Championship here in Ireland. On commentators, if it's an English commentator, they'll go Gallagher, but that's not true. So I think that's very interesting, just the different pronunciations. So I'd be very careful with that. Just not saying, oh, you're wrong, because you're not wrong. For some people, it is Gallagher. They just prefer that. But for most Irish people, it's Gallagher.
And other Irish names like Niamh. Like, how would you pronounce it? Niamh.
Oh, this is going to be fun. I love doing this because I've seen this on so many videos, and now I'm going to do it. Niamh.
Yes.
That would be Niamh.
Yes. That's right.
Caoimhe. That is spelled Caoimhe. So that's a bit difficult as well. Any others that you can think of? Sorry.
And what about Owen? How would you spell Owen in Irish?
Owen is Eoin. That's Owen. Then the way I think about it is Eowyn. That's the way you can think about it. Owen. Because I grew up in Ireland, these are really easy, but for some people it's really weird. Maeve, Meabh. That would be how you spell Maeve. Or in America, or in other countries, it would be Maeve. So it'd be a bit different. There's a couple of names like that are just like, if somebody mispronounces your name and it's Irish, they'll go like, really? Well, this is the real name, and they'll have a laugh about it. Like, there's so many things out there where it's funny. It's not offensive at all. Like, some people will take it seriously, but I think if you find the right person, they'll have a laugh about it and say, well, and you'll start having a conversation like this.
But Kelly is universal. It's Kelly everywhere.
This is the thing. My name is really easily pronounced, Logan Kelly. Whereas my sister's name, even though it's a Kelly, she has a name called Elise, which is Elise, so everybody mispronounces their name. Big shout out to my sister Elise, by the way. Elise, so a lot of people call her Eliza, Elsie, Alice, not Elise, or Alice, or stuff like that, where or Ellis, she gets really annoyed with that, because, like, when you look at it, when you break it down, Elise, it's just, people think, oh no, that's not Elise, that's Elsie, when it actually is Elise.
That's interesting. When you read Irish books, do they actually include the difficult spellings and names like Owen? Would they spell it Owen because they realize their book might be in America and people do not know how to pronounce the Irish version? No?
Well, there's a children's book called Artemis Fowl, which is massive, and it's by a man called Owen Colfer. And he doesn't change his name to the English way of spelling it or the other way of spelling it. He'd keep it his own. If you're an Irish author, most Irish authors just write the normal Irish name. I mean, it just suits the story better.
So how about the word? How about the name Ian? Is it Ian? AI. I think
So
AIN
Ian
is.
is IAN, and Ian's just EN, just how it's spelled. Ian. It's
Oh,
really
okay.
simple.
So I'm not wrong when I say Ian because I've heard Ian. I heard the name Ian. IAN.
No, Ian. Ian. Sorry, I can't even say it myself. Ian. No, that's not a
Mm.
name. That's not
That's
how people
cool.
say it. It's Ian though, so you're correct. You're actually you know a lot of these names very well, which is like that's brilliant. Because a lot of people have a bit of fun with it going, yeah. But then there's some people who like purposely mispronounce it, and that's what kind of gets on people's nerves. But no, most people are very good about it, which is nice.
That's cool. Well, I have a few more questions for you before we end the stream. I really appreciate the opportunity that you gave me to interview you, and it's brilliant. I love it. Really, it's really extraordinary, Logan, just how you communicate. And I feel that, you're going to get somewhere in the world if you're going to be a well-known podcaster. You're going to kick Lex Friedman or Rick Beato off his throne. But this was
Sorry,
an excellent,
Rick.
an amazing, amazing conversation. I want to ask you about the symbols that you have on your wall. Did they belong to your uncle? You said your uncle was a drummer at one time.
You research a lot, don't you? I need to get something before I answer. You are a brilliant interviewer.
Thank you very much.
But no, these are drumsticks from my Uncle
Logan,
Graham.
Logan.
So one sec, let me try and get it that you can see the name. Graham Hopkins there, you can see it's signed.
Yeah.
So Graham
Wow.
Hopkins would probably, not to brag like, but he's one of the best drummers in the world, like actually. I'm not saying that
So he
because
really
he's
is your
like
uncle.
yeah, he's actually amazing.
Wow.
So these are his drumsticks. He has a load of these though. Like he wouldn't use these on stage. These are just signed branded ones. So I'll just fling them over there. No, I'm just kidding. I'll delicately put them over there and sell them on eBay for a couple of grand in a couple of years. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I would.
Just joking.
I can
Oh
imagine.
no, you were saying there with my Uncle Graham. He is he's a brilliant drummer. I did an interview on him, so you know what to do. Click the link. No, I'm just kidding. But yes, he is a drummer. And I've been in his studio. It's very cool, and he is a very cool person as well, and very courageous as well. He's just class.
Yeah, I'm so glad you interviewed him. That was actually really nice to interview your own relative. I'm more interested actually as well with the guitars. Like, do they belong to a family member, or did you get them from guests who decided to give them to you? And thank you for a wonderful podcast.
Nobody's giving me a guitar, though. I have got a couple of
Well, I want
presents.
one. Why don't they send me one?
Ricochet gave me a book, which is really lovely, and I really appreciated that. The acoustic I got for my birthday when I was 10. The electric I got a year ago this Christmas, and the bass is my dad's, but I keep it in here because yeah, just I have a load of space in this room.
Are they Gibsons or Taylors or Stratocasters? What are they?
You know, I'm gonna bring them over here and I'll start showing you them one by one.
I love it.
So, the first guitar here, this is my electric guitar. So, this was from Santa. It's not plugged into an amp. This is a Fender Telecaster. I'm actually going to lift it up
Fender.
here.
Wow, I
See,
like
it's
it.
very nice. Um, it's very fun to play, and it's got a very nice feel to it as well.
I take it you're learning an
I'm
instrument?
learning. No, I'm already that good. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Oh.
I I am learning at the moment how to play guitar, and it's very very fun. I'm sorry, just the microphone's a bit far away. If my voice seems a bit far away,
It's all right.
but no, that's my Fender Telecaster. Then there's a Yamaha. I actually don't know the model because this is my dad's. He got it. It was second hand when he bought it
Bass guitar,
because
yeah,
he
wow.
doesn't actually play bass. Well, like he doesn't know. He didn't know how to play bass at the time. He can play bass now though. He doesn't play guitar, but he plays bass. And then
You
this
don't
is
think it'll
my
be easy for you to pick up the guitar?
um. Sorry.
You don't think it would be easy for you to pick up the guitar? You just start with Mary Had a Little Lamb and end up with Smoke on the Water.
Actually, "Smoke on the Water" is one of the easiest songs to play. Sorry.
Wow. Super multi-talented.
That was the first song
Amazing.
I ever learned. And then you've also got
Wow.
stuff like "Come As You Are" by Nirvana.
You do know that some record shops and some music shops, they ban that, eh? That and Led
Really?
Zeppelin, one of the Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven, they ban it. You can't, like, we have a company called Long and McQuaid's, and they have, like, I showed the video before, they have a whole wall of all the bass guitars, Fenders, Stratocasters, and on another wall they have all the violins, and another wall they have all the trumpets and tubas, and I stand there looking all the bass guitars, electric guitars from $500 to $8,000. And I always ask the question to guitarists, why are they so expensive? Does it change the actual sound of them depending how much you spend on it? Stuff like that. And you can't play Smoke on the Water if you want to practice with one. You can't Smoke on the Water and Led Zeppelin Stairway to Heaven. You can't play any of these because hundreds of thousands of people play that Smoke on the Water. You want to be working at a record shop or shop and hear
Yeah.
it's wonderful you can
Like,
play it. Wow, that's great.
yeah. I see what you're saying, though. This is an Ortega. This is part of the student series. There isn't actually a name on it, but it's an Ortega. It's got a lovely sound.
Wow, look at him play. Do you tell your guests that you can actually play the guitar?
Yeah.
Or am I the
Most
first one
people.
you actually played it for? That's amazing.
You're the first person who I've actually played it for.
I really
I never
appreciate that.
pick
Thank
up
you,
my
buddy.
guitars. I
Thank you
love.
so much.
Oh, it's fine.
I love it.
I love
I love it.
guitars. I have never, like, out of the songs that I've released, because on a page called bandlab.com, if by the way you want to go to bandlab.com/Logans_sounds and you'll get to see my page. I've put up hundreds of songs there. Most of them are bad, so just go to the albums section of my profile and select my debut one because I've only got one up there. That's where it starts, and don't
Don't forget
listen
to go
to
to a
any other
pub and
ones.
have a drink.
But no, I have never recorded a song where I've actually played an instrument in it.
This is
Ever.
awesome.
It's
I
all
feel honored.
samples.
I feel honored.
Oh no,
So
it's fine.
that's
It's
great.
lovely to play the guitar. So,
So what's currently on your playlist? Like, what's your go-to song?
do you mind if I just pull up my Spotify, because I'm just going to do it quickly. I'll talk to you while I'm doing it. But
Yeah,
no,
I'll tell you what I'm listening.
there's so much music that is out there at the moment that I'm listening to. I am listening to some Ron Sexsmith. He is amazing. Lo-Fi Girl, that is a live stream on YouTube, but she's also on Spotify. So search up Lo-Fi Girl Halloween 2023. That is brilliant. Let me go through here. I've got so much stuff here.
Well, one of mine is Bee Gees.
Bee Gees are amazing. I love
Another
their
one is
sound.
we have a Canadian artist by the name of Corey Hart. He's got some amazing music. Also, another one is Sting. I got a lot of Sting. I like the Police, but I prefer his solo stuff. So I call
It's
his the Sting.
Radiohead. I'd say here, I've got my stuff up now. Radiohead, I'd go to all the time. Ed Sheeran, anything by Ian MacKaye, The Rolling Stones, Ron Sexsmith, Crikey, The Divine Comedy, um, Temple sometimes, very rarely, but they're still very good.
Wow.
Fontaines DC, Kenny Beats, Mac DeMarco all day long. Love his sound, really lovely musician.
Do
Francis
you like
Monk.
Train at all? Pat Monahan's Train?
Sorry?
Pat Monahan and Train?
No, I've never heard of them actually.
Oh, give a listen to Train. Pat Monahan's got this unique voice. Love his stuff. Um,
Oh,
and
let me see it.
like I said earlier, I got decades 70 to 79, 80 to 89, and 60 to 69 songs. Another artist, Linda Ronstadt, you should listen to her. Um, Robbie Williams used to be in Take That.
Oh yeah, I know
You
Robbie
might be
Williams.
you might be familiar with this group, Keen. They're from the UK. Keen,
Keen, no.
Cyndi Lauper, Huxley Workman. Yeah, I got a ton of this. Um, Dexy's Midnight Runner. I got
Oh,
I got something. Yeah,
I love
come on,
Dexter Midnight.
Eileen. Yeah, um, and the lead singer, he's got actually some pretty good solo stuff. Um, Sometimes you might find me listening to music that nobody's else had heard. Like for instance, a friend of mine has a CD, and I love their music, and I listen to it. I'm like, and I love it when I'm listening to a CD, and I say, "Hey, I love the CD that you sent me. It's awesome. Thanks for the autograph." And I've known this person for like 30 years, so it's nice to know people who actually are musicians. And another one of my
Yeah.
favorites, Red Hot Chili Peppers, as well.
Oh yeah. Or
But
HCP, brilliant band.
But if I can get Sting on my podcast, I'll be very, very happy. But I'm pretty sure that Ian MacKaye and others, so just keep it up. Keep it up, Logan. Keep it up. I'll definitely be watching. Really, really, really excited. Okay, so before we end the stream, give us a word of advice for up and coming podcasters, musicians, guests, anything that we can take away from this podcast.
I'm actually going to quote the great Ian MacKaye when I said that. And I'm going to change it. He wrote a poem, and I'm going to tell you why I did it. And if you feel the same, this is what you should answer to the people in future when you're asked for what stuff to say to inspire people. Because I wanted to.
Okay.
Ian MacKaye did a poem for Sonic Youth that was Because We Said So, which is why Fugazi became a punk band. And I want to say because I wanted to. Because I said so. So, if you're out there, you're a kid, you like making podcasts, you love YouTube, you just want to do something that makes you feel good, do it. It will be hard. Like, it is incredibly tricky. And there's times when I've wanted to give up, but just don't. Because look at me! I've literally got my own merch on. Like, this is the only piece of merch
I
in
know
the world.
you have
Yes.
your own merch. Yeah.
Yeah, this
Can you
is the
buy
only
can I
piece
get
of
one
merch in
too?
the world, apart from a t-shirt that I have in my wardrobe over there.
I love it.
And my sister got it for me, so again, big shout out to my sister. But she got this for my birthday, so it's very snuggly.
Can you have them mass produced and sell them on your website?
I would, but I'm gonna be like Ian MacKaye in the sense that I'm not gonna do merch. So if you ever see a Fugazi t-shirt out there, actually I'm gonna give you second piece of advice before we end the stream. It might sound silly, but it's true. If you ever see a t-shirt that says Fugazi on it, or the Evens, or Crikey, don't buy it because it's a spoof. There you go. It's not real. Ian MacKaye never made any merch. You're welcome.
And I'm going to put this out here. If you get a Mel Gibson autograph, it's fake because he doesn't sign autographs. There you go.
Yeah. We both gave you really good tips there.
Yes. And I really appreciate that. Oh, Logan, this is awesome. And that 2 hours went by so quickly. I really appreciate that. I could be talking to you for 4 hours and not get to the, like everything you do is just amazing. And I just love your YouTube channel. I love your podcast. Excellent.
Chris,
And Ian Mackay, yes. And you're going to go, people are going to think, you always tell the guests they're going to go places. Yeah, but this guest is 12 years old. He's got like 40, 50-year-old intelligence. He's got like a 6-year-old brain and like of experiences. And he's only 12. Plus, you're
thank
saying
you.
that you have a book which is written for teens, and you're saying that it's also good, like you're calling yourself a teenager, and you're not even a teenager yet. It's really,
Do you
yeah,
know
I did a
what,
lot of research on you. So,
Chris?
yeah,
Thank you so much.
you're very
You
welcome. I really
researched so
enjoyed that.
well. You asked brilliant questions. And even though I would
Thanks.
love to stay here another 4 hours and talk about myself, like the egomaniac I am, I do have to eat,
Awesome.
unfortunately.
Good.
And also, my bottle's empty. So I wouldn't be able to
And I
drink
got to
either.
fill up my coffee as
But
well.
thank
I
you.
appreciate that. Thank you, Logan. I really appreciate that comment. You made me want to keep going and not give up. This is awesome. I really love it. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Top of the morning to you. Just kidding. Well, thank you. Thanks your mom, Emer, for this. I really appreciate it. Her email was very kind, and your whole family is kind and wonderful. And I look forward to hearing more of your wonderful top of the mornings. So I appreciate that. Okay, everyone. His podcast and his social networks will be down below. And yeah, listen
Yes.
to his podcast. Um, subscribe. It's great. It's awesome. Okay,
Subscribe,
Logan.
follow, download.
So everyone, Logan Kelly from Logan Sounds Off out. See you, Logan.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Ben, see you.